Welcome into Stacking the Box podcast with Matt Verderame and Sterling Holmes. I am Sterling Holmes. Verderame, how are you?
I'm tired, but I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. I honestly, I was there at the Bills Chiefs game. I am still tired. Still tired.
I don't blame you. But I gotta say that I'm actually not tired because I'm tired because of that disgrace of a football game I had to watch last night. We're gonna get to the Chiefs and the Bills in a second because obviously I think that's the game that you have the most fallout from. That game last night was so bad. Like, I really sat there and I came away with one concrete conclusion. Look, let's put Denver aside. Denver sucks. I don't even need to waste 5 seconds of analysis on Denver. Here's my Denver analysis for the rest of the year. They stink. The Chargers, every week, I kind of find myself being like, well, maybe they're gonna turn around, start to be good. And then I watch the Chargers, and this is gonna serve as my zapping of the dog for the rest of time. Like, they also stink. I know they're 4-2. Their coaching is terrible. That team's not winning anything with that clown show on the sideline ever. And I'm not just talking about Staley. I'm talking about Lombardi as the offensive coordinator too. Like, they are abominable coaching that team. It is so incredibly bad to watch. They're playing a team in Denver that flat out can't do anything on offense. Cannot do anything. And then you couple that with it's a home game, which, by the way, it felt like about 20,000 empty seats in that building. And you get 151 penalty yards out of Denver, and it takes a muff punt in overtime for you to win that game because you just cannot muster anything. They're bad, man. That team, like, I know they're 4-2. I think they're going to make the playoffs because I think the AFC is a lot weaker than I thought it was at the beginning of the season. They are. I won't say they suck because, like, Denver sucks. They are at best an average football team, despite top tier talent in a lot of places.
Brandon Staley, I will admit, tricked me. He tricked me. I thought he was going to be so good. I was like, yeah, this guy, he's going to be a very good head coach. He tricked me. All he did was basically be very aggressive and just continuously say, analytics, analytics, analytics. And I go, all right, I'm listening. I'm intrigued. He tricked us. He tricked me. I will admit it.
He is a clown show on the sideline. And Joe Lombardi, there's nothing I enjoy more than the Chargers being in 3rd and 10 and treating it like it's a surrender down every single time they're in it. Like, all right, swing it out to Eckler and hope for the best. Like, guys, you have Justin Herbert, right? Like, feel free to run a route to 12 yards deep. Like, it's just they treat their offense like it's being run by the worst quarterback in the world. It's just, and then also, like, defensively, I know they held Denver 16 points. Not exactly a show of force defensively week in week. They had to bench J.C. Jackson. Like, that doesn't seem good. You just paid him $82.5 million, and you're benching him because he couldn't cover against Denver? Yikes.
Let's get into at least a better game, and that was the Bills Chiefs. Let's get into the fallout. Starting first with, are the Bills now the undisputed best team in the AFC?
Yeah, I think you have to say they are right now. I mean, it's them or Kansas City, right? I mean, there's no other competition. It's got to be one of the two of them, and they won. They beat the Chiefs in their own building, 24-20. I think it depends on how you view the question. Like, if you view the question as if you power rank the AFC right now, are they number one? Yes, definitely. Like, I don't even think it's arguable. I found it weird, and you were at the game, so I'm very curious your thoughts. But I found it weird in the sense that I actually walked away from that game from a Chiefs perspective, feeling more confident about them in January than I did going into the game. Like, the reason I say that is because there was a part of me going into that game on Sunday, even though I picked the Chiefs to win because I figured Mahomes would make enough plays, which he did not. there's a part of me that I think Buffalo might score 38 points. Like, I don't know how they're going to play defensively. And despite being without a lot of guys on defense, they actually played really well. And I thought they found something in that game. When they blitzed Allen, the Bills had all kinds of problems with it. They couldn't stay in that blitz relentlessly because they had to put Joshua Williams on an island, and it became a problem. If Trent McDuffie's there, it's not as much of a problem to just say, all right, we're playing one-on-one. Here it comes. If they play them again in January, I think that's what the Chiefs would do. But all that said, I do think the Bills are the best team in the AFC right now. But I don't think it's I don't think there's a big gap. And I think if they played each other 10 times, they'd probably split the games.
I would say one thing to note here, the Bills were knocking on the door when Josh Allen did the forward pass, which should have been a lateral. It was just a miscommunication between him and I believe it was Devin Singletary. Chiefs recovered. That was in the red zone. Could have been worse in that instance. But also, if you flip the coin, Mahomes threw a interception in the red zone, so it evened out.
Yeah.
I mean, and the thing with that, I don't actually have a massive issue with Mahomes trying to make that play. I don't. You assume touchdowns are going to be needed instead of field goals to beat the Bills. MVS is what, 6'4", going up against a cornerback. You expect him to go and make a play on the ball, right? It was a great play by Elam, right place, right time, but I don't have a massive issue with that situation. What I do have an issue with is the offensive line and the tackles for Kansas City. They got dominated. Von Miller just destroyed Andrew Wiley. Give the Bills all the credit. I thought, what are they doing giving a 33-year-old this type of contract length and money-wise, right? I go, no way Von Miller is still that dude. He's still that dude. Bills are all in this season for Kansas City. This is a retooling year. And again, like you mentioned it, they played 10 times. They might split. If you're Buffalo, though, they needed to win this game. They need to win in the playoffs. They are all in this year.
I agree with part of that, but I disagree with another part of it. I actually thought in the game that I thought their offensive line was all right. I mean, it felt like Mahomes held the ball for 5-6 seconds constantly because he was trying to make plays down the field because they can't get open because they just have no speed at all, receiver. Or they have speed, but nobody who can run a route. They have these combinations of like Juju can run routes, but he has no speed. MVS and Hardman have speed, but they can't run routes. So you have all these receivers that unless Kelsey's open, there's no combination of the two for the position. I thought the tackles were pretty good. I thought they just were at some point. I mean, you got to get rid of the football. My biggest concern with the Chiefs, and it was going into the game this way, and it's coming out of this game. Look. I am going to start to be this guy because I truly believe this. There's a dirty secret with the Chiefs. Their coaching is not that good. They're not that well coached. And I know people say, "Oh my God, how could you say that?" Andy Reid. Andy Reid's going to walk into Canton one day, and he should. He's one of the great schemers of all time. He's one of the great play designers of all time. He's great at getting matchups. Andy Reid is a great coach Monday through Saturday. And on Sunday, he's a really average head coach. There are too many times that they blow time management situations. How you don't call a timeout in the last 2 minutes of that game when the Bills are running out half the clock, I have no idea. I don't know what you're doing. Are you aware of what's going on? Are you paying any attention? Number two, there are so many times in these games where they have either they don't run the ball or they run a play to a running back and you instantaneously like you have the wrong running back in. Like even before the result happens. There were a couple of plays in that game where they ran outside with Edwards-Helaire, where if they had Pacheco in the game, he would have gained real yardage. But they don't gain real yardage because they have the slowest running back in the world trying to run zone stretch. Like, I don't understand it. I do not understand. Then you have Sky Moore, who actually has speed and can run routes, and Mahomes trusts him. Mahomes throws him the ball. They never play him. They're so hard up to get Hardman out there and MVS out there. Their offensive coaching, I won't say it stinks. That would be over the top. It is very inconsistent. It is very inconsistent. I am not going to get on Spags. I thought Spags, considering the circumstances, called a very good football game. I don't think you can get on him. But I do think Andy Reid wins games for them. He also loses games for them. I don't think he lost Sunday. Like he was part of it, but I wouldn't put the whole thing on him by any stretch. There are too many times with him where it is just obviously the wrong decision. And nobody talks about it because he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, and then that's fine. That doesn't exonerate him from having a half dozen things a game where you go, Andy, what are you doing, man? This is comical. Like a 12-year-old kid would know not to do this. And he does it. He does it all the time.
And still, by far the best clock management, timeout management in the AFC West. I do want to give the Bills some credit here. Devin Singletary and the Bills' offensive line and their ability to run the ball, they've not had that for most of this season, and they took advantage of that early in the game against Kansas City. The Chiefs also, this game just put so much prominence on their inability to get any sort of pass rush with only 4 guys up front. But moving on here, who is the third best team in the AFC? You and I both agree right now it's Bills Chiefs, but who's number 3 in the AFC?
So, 2-part answer. One, it doesn't matter because whoever it is so far after. Because to put a ball on the other thing, how far back behind the Bills do you think the Chiefs are?
I think it's – I don't agree with you if it was 10 games, they would split. I think the Bills are a decent amount better just based on the strength of the Bills line up with the Chiefs' weaknesses.
Okay. See, it's funny. I actually feel like polar opposite way. I actually think the Chiefs match up with their defense. I think the Chiefs can go up and down the field, and we'll see.
Hear me out, though. The Chiefs were missing Trent McDuffie, right?
Yes.
Bills are missing Tre'Davious White.
I understand. I get it. He's
obviously,
great.
And Micah Hyde's out for the year, right?
He is out for the year. Yes.
So,
I think I won't say the Chiefs should have won that game. They certainly could have won that game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if they have McDuffie and Gay and Fenton and Cook, I get White's a great player. White doesn't equal the impact of all 4 of those guys. I don't think the Chiefs are better than Buffalo. I also would not be at all surprised if the Chiefs went to Buffalo in the AFC Championship game and beat them.
Oh, correct. Correct.
So the reason I bring that up is I personally believe the Bills are number 1. I think the Chiefs are right there. And I also think with all their youth that they might even be further there come January. The third team, I mean, I sat here, I tweeted this last night. I am staggered trying to figure out the third team. I don't know. Is it the Chargers? I mean, is it them? Because I got to tell you, I want to say Baltimore, but I mean, Jesus. Blow another double-digit lead in the second half of the game. And by the way, we have to have a conversation real quick about this. Lamar Jackson. If I got to listen to one more person telling me, well, you don't understand the greatness of Lamar. No. I'm good. Like, he's a good quarterback. He's an unbelievable threat because of all the different things he can do. Lamar Jackson threw one of the worst picks you'll ever see in your life on Sunday late in the game that flat out, frankly, cost him the game. Lamar Jackson is 19th in passing yards in the NFL. He is behind Jacoby Brissett, Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence, Kyler Murray, and Russell Wilson. Okay? He, for all of his talent, is averaging 7.1 yards an attempt, which, for context, is middle of the road. It's 15th. It's not terrible, but it's average. He has thrown a good bit of touchdowns. He's thrown 13. That's the big thing to hang your hat on if you're Lamar. Like, you're third in the league. You're only behind Allen and Mahomes. They've both thrown 17. Okay? He's also thrown the third most picks in the league at 6. Okay. I'm to the point, and by the way, that's despite having the 19th most attempts in the NFL. You're not going to win games against really good teams with him throwing the ball like that. You're just not. I'm sorry. I don't care how well he runs the football. And a lot of the picks with him, like, they're bad picks. They're just picks. You're like, oh my God, man. Like, how do you throw that pick? Did it against the Giants, did it against the Bengals. But that all said, I think to me, I see people in the chat saying Jets, who give them credit. I don't think it's the Jets, but Hefe, give them credit. I mean, they're 4-2. They beat the Packers. Jeremy says the Patriots, maybe just by virtue of Belichick. I don't know. I think it's honestly the Bills, the Ravens, or the Chargers. And all those teams have like massive issues. But I guess I'll say the Chargers, and I'll say that knowing that they won't win one playoff game.
The reason why I would say the Chargers is because they're missing so much top end talent, and they're still 4-2. They're missing multiple offensive linemen. They're missing Keenan Allen. Justin Herbert is completely banged up with his ribs. And I do have to assume that I'm giving Staley and Lombardi some semblance of, hey, we're trying to protect Herbert. We don't want him looking at the field and taking massive shots to the ribs, so we're going to check down as quick as possible. I am probably wrong.
Oh, you're
I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. But my point is, I think they're trying to protect Herbert at least a little bit. The Chargers are missing so much top-end talent. That will help when they come back. They're getting through right now.
Okay,
they played horribly.
That's part of the problem.
4-2.
And it's funny because we actually agree with the Chargers. But here's the problem. First of all, they've always played like this offensively. Always. Even before Herbert got hurt. It is just like 5 yards, 6 yards, 4 yards, 2 yards. They've always done this. Secondly, Slater's out for the year. He ain't coming back. Okay. Mm-hmm. Bosa's out 8 to 10 weeks. And if you know anything about the Chargers and Bosa, it's probably going to be the full 10, if not even like 12. Okay. Corey Linsley, he's coming back. He had food poisoning yesterday, which is the most Chargers thing ever to have it. Of course, the guy misses a game for food poisoning. Keenan Allen, remember when that was day to day? Well, we're 5 weeks in now, and he still has a hamstring injury. So, look, when he's back, he helps them. But, like, they've got problems way beyond that. Like, J.C. Jackson is getting benched. Bosa's hurt for 8 to 10 weeks. They still can't stop anybody running the football. Nobody. They run the ball. Well, now Denver is Denver, and so they fell apart. But any normal team runs the ball. The other thing is, do you ever feel like the Chargers, like, oh, they're just going to win this game? Like, they're playing Seattle this week. Who the fuck knows? I could see them winning that game. I could see them giving up 45 points to Geno. But you don't know what's going to happen. But I agree with you. I think they're the third best team because you look at this conference. Well, the Ravens can't throw at all consistently, and the defense can't hold the lead. The Bengals' offensive line is a train wreck, and they almost got beat by Andy Dalton. And then there's the AFC South. Yikes. I can't get behind the Pats. I can't get behind the Jets. It's like, maybe it's the Dolphins when they're healthy. Like, maybe it's them. Fair enough. Like, I forget about the Dolphins because they've lost the last 3. But, maybe when they're healthy, it's Miami. But, my God. By the way, Miami plays the Chargers this year, so that ought to be interesting. The Chargers, like you brought up, they're 4-2. We can leave it at this. They've played the easy part of their schedule, and they're 4-2. Like, they've beaten Denver. They've beaten Houston. Barely, by the way, in both games.
Sure, but the Chiefs barely beat the Chargers as well, right? If we're going to throw the other side here.
Sure. I think it's a little different, though, in the context of when they played the Chargers, they did have everybody, and it was a Thursday night game. Like, I'm not arguing that. The Bills closely beat Baltimore and Miami, and we're sitting here talking about all these teams in the same boat. I guess my point is, though, it's a little bit also of like an eye test. There are times where obviously the Bills are ultra impressive. The Chiefs are ultra impressive. When are the Chargers ever ultra impressive? Right? Like, when are you like, man, they just look great? Like, it's like you could say, well, they played the Chiefs tough. Yeah, and they still were down 10 points at the 2-minute warning. Like, they just make all these mistakes. Like, Gerald Everett is exhausted now. Like, it's all right, throw it to him anyway. And then I love these people who are always like, always want to give them an out. And they're like, well, yeah, it's bad. It's not bad luck. Coach a game correctly. Like, it's not bad luck that Gerald Everett's like dying and trying to get off the field. And they're like, no, hurry it up. And then they throw it to him. Like,
force feed him.
That's not bad luck. That's bad process. That's why they are who they are. Like, I don't know. I think, look, this is a long way of getting to. I think it's going to be Buffalo and Kansas City in the AFC Championship game, and you might as well just put it in pen.
Correct. I will agree. Now let's head over to the NFC. Where do the Eagles stack up? Undefeated. Jalen Hurts got it done against the Cooper Rush-led Cowboys, who, frankly, they've been winning some games. But where do the Eagles stack up here?
The Eagles deserve all the credit in the world. They're 6-0, and they're winning games in a lot of different ways. Like, I believe in the Eagles, and their schedule's a joke, by the way, going forward. They're probably going to win like 15 games. I am very concerned about one thing with the Eagles that I think is a real issue. They can't score in the second half. Like, they can't score. That is a problem. Like, that screams to me that if you can figure them out early in the game, they have a problem. Now, they're great in the first half. And I love their personnel, so I'm not like throwing them down the river or anything here. I think right now the NFL can be put into two buckets. The one bucket has the Eagles, the Bills, and the Chiefs. And the other bucket is the other 29 teams. I mean, I said there into my power rankings last night, published them this morning. Check them out on fanside.com or go straight to hell. Look, so I put the Eagles at 1 because I think they deserve to be at 1. They're undefeated, and they've been impressive. It's not like it's one of these things where they're undefeated and they kind of look like crap. Like, they've been impressive. Number 2, I have Buffalo. I think to me, Buffalo and Philly are 1-2. So put them however you like. The Chiefs are clear as day, number 3. And then after that, I sat there and I was like, man, is Minnesota number 4? And I thought to myself, would the Chiefs be a double-digit favorite at home against Minnesota? And I think the answer is probably yes. Like, that's how big of a gap there is. And then the 5, and I have all the respect for them in the world. We're going to talk about them in a second. But the Giants, I'm like, the Chiefs would be a 13-point favorite against the Giants. At home, at least would be like 10.5, right? I mean, I feel like the gap between the interesting thing is if the Chiefs and the Eagles, because I think we all know if the Bills and Eagles played on a neutral field, the Bills would be favored. If the Chiefs and Eagles played on a neutral field, I think the Chiefs would be favored. Like, I think they would probably be, in Vegas's eyes, the 2 best teams in the league. So I think if you're going by that, then you may put Philly 3rd. But I got to tell you, maybe you and I disagree on this. I think there's very little separation between those 3 teams. Everybody else, I think the separation is basically from New York into China. Okay. But those 3 teams, I think, are very, very close. And I think could beat each other on any given day.
100%. I think the Eagles are clearly in the top 3. Maybe the case for 1. I said before, I didn't think Jalen Hurts. I said Jalen Hurts is probably going to be the reason the Eagles don't take that next step. I thought they'd make the playoffs, but I didn't think they're going to be this dominant so far. Jalen Hurts has taken the next step. Everyone on that team is bought in. The offensive line for the Eagles is the best in the NFL. Their defensive line is outstanding. They're winning in the trenches. The addition of A.J. Brown has been phenomenal. Not only that, Devontae Smith on the other side is getting it done. They have a good tight end in Dallas Goedert. They completely revamped their secondary. They went all in for this season. This is win now mode. They have a quarterback on a rookie contract. They know it's at stake. They're trying to get it done right now. The Bills, to an extent, are the same thing. They're trying to go all in right now. The Von Miller signing, all those guys they brought in. It's the same sense, but in the NFC. Let's take now the NFC East as a whole. Are 3 playoff teams coming from the NFC East?
Yeah, I think they are. I think they are. Right? I mean, the Eagles are definitely going to be the playoff team. Yeah. Dallas is 4-2, and the next 2 games are at home against Detroit and Chicago. So they're 6-2. The Giants are 5-1, and we went through this last week, so we don't need to belabor it with the Giants. But like, the Giants are going to make the playoffs. The Giants are going to win 9 to 10 games. And who the hell else is making the playoffs in the NFC? So yeah, I think you're going to get 3 playoff teams. I do.
The NFC least going to NFC beast in 1 season, 1 year. I do want to point out, if you have, let's say, the Giants or the Cowboys making the playoffs, having both of them, right? That means that is picking a team, either the Vikings or the Packers. Only one of them are making it. Tampa Bay or New Orleans, or I don't think the Falcons make it, but Tampa Bay or New Orleans, only one makes it. And then the NFC West, San Fran, LA, who you picking? My point is, you're leaving out some good teams, I think more talented teams than, say, the Giants. Now it's looking more like 9 wins might not be just the cutoff, but you might have to win 10. Does that change anything for you?
No, it doesn't. I think those three teams are all making the playoffs. I think you're getting one team out of the NFC South. I got to tell you, man, and I picked this team to go to the Super Bowl. We're getting to a point with the Packers, like they better get something going, because not that they're 3-3. Like, I'm not panicking over the record so much. The look of that whole thing, the sound of it. Like, you got Rodgers after the game being like, "We got to simplify the offense." And LaFleur's like, "I don't know what that means. That's not good. That's not good." Okay, like I think they have the talent to get going, but man, like they just look deader than hell. Now that can change quickly, but in the NFC, man, are you getting two teams out of the NFC West? You doing
I think so. I think Niners and Rams.
I got Niners.
I think the Rams will eventually figure it out. They're too talented. There is way too much talent on that roster, and that's what it comes down to. The Giants have 2 games right now on the Rams. If you're going by that standard, you're basically saying the Giants will not lose 2 games, or the Rams will not be 2 games better from here on out. I honest to God, I don't think they're going to be. The Rams just lost their left tackle to an Achilles. They can't block anybody. They literally can't block. If they don't get Odell Beckham back, man, that team's not going to the playoffs. They can't do anything. Anytime they play a decent team, they lose to them. And that's going to be a problem for the Rams, because you have to play the entire AFC West, which is not great, by the way. But I think they're going to lose some games there. They still have to play games in their division. They're going to lose some games there. They got to play the Packers. I mean, somebody's got to win. But they got to play the Bucks, who, by the way, nice game against Pittsburgh. That is about as bad a loss as Brady's had in some time. Who do you believe more in, the Patriots or the Dolphins?
The Dolphins, because I think their talent is much more. But I got to tell you, like, what do you do if you're the Pats with Zappy? What do you do? What do you do? Do you go back to Mac Jones? I don't know. And I'll tell you one thing, Belichick's, if there's one guy who's just going to go, "I don't care, sit down," it's him. Right? I mean, I think the Dolphins are the better team. And I think we're only having this conversation because the Dolphins have had injuries galore at quarterback, and so they've lost 3 in a row. But I got to be fair. I think the Patriots, talent-wise, stink. And, like, here they are, 3-3 again, just right in the mix. So I think it's the Dolphins. But the Pats at least deserve some credit for being where they are.
Yeah, 100% with you. The Patriots roster is just not good. You and I talked about going into this year. With Belichick, you might get 6, at max 7 wins out of that team, and they just keep rolling on. Freaking Zappy, man. Anyone else besides maybe Andy Reid, you get some decent performances from a guy that nearly no one has heard of, but of course New England does with Belichick. But yeah, you're right. It's the Dolphins, man. If Tua is healthy, they probably don't lose 3 straight games. Tua coming back, it is 100% the Dolphins over New England. Into the future, number 3 at 5-1. Do you buy the Vikings as winning the NFC North?
Oh God, I wrote this question. I still don't know my answer to it. I mean, if you said to me you got to bet your life, I would still take the Packers, because they get them back at home. I think they win that game, and then it's a 1-game difference, and you split the series. So I guess I'll still ride with the Packers. The Vikings scare the hell out of me. I mean, you're up 21-0, or 21-3 on the Bears. You blow the lead to the Bears at home. You're like desperately trying to get back and win the game. Miami's missing its entire team. You almost lose that game. Like, it takes Waddle fumbling the ball. I just don't think they're good. I know they're 5-1. I don't think they're good. But this is to my point earlier of what we talked about. Bills, Chiefs, Eagles, and then the Gulf is wider than the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, it's unbelievable. I have them as my 4th team. I can't remember a year where you've looked at a top 5 and just gone, ooh, like the back 40% of it. Like, normally, even in a year where it's top heavy, there's like 6 or 7 teams. Like, those teams are really good. I look at this like, can we just get to the conference title games? And just play, and it's like the Eagles against whoever the hell's playing well, and then the Chiefs and the Bills, and we can all just move on because it just feels like, of course, that'll mean none of them will get there, and it'll be like Ravens Chargers in the AFC title game. But it's just no, I can't say I believe in the Vikings. I don't.
I will say this very quickly. If you are a team that's not the Eagles, Chiefs, or Bills, how excited are you? If you're a Jets fan, a Giants fan, a Cowboys fan, a team that you did not think was going to be great this year, even the Falcons, right? They're 3-3. Think of a team that had no hopes necessarily going into the year. You have a chance of making the playoffs. In the playoffs, anything can happen. This is great for those fans of teams who thought they had no chance because there's just such a gap, like you mentioned, from 3 on. I do think the Vikings are the best team in the NFC North. I think they win that division. I hate putting any money, any sort of hope on Kirk Cousins, but that's what I'm doing. I know you said bet your life. If I have to bet my life on the Vikings and Kirk Cousins or the way the Packers look right now, I'm going into hiding. I'll just go somewhere.
That's the answer.
I'm going
to Henry Hill. Okay,
I'm going to Peru or something, just hiding out down there. Argentina, maybe.
Yeah,
I'm going the Vikings. Yeah,
I'm with you though. It is terrifying.
Looks like we have Ben here.
Yes, Ben Heisler, BetSided's best. Let's bring him in. Let's talk. We both said he was a dope for wanting to bet the Steelers last week, and the man was right on. And so we paid a steep price, but we did okay. We've done well most of the year, so we'll have to eat it. But clearly, it's why we should just roll with you, Heisler, at all times. All right,
yeah,
how you doing today?
I'm good, gents. Again, we go through this a lot. You're not betting the team, you're betting the number, and the number was indicative of a solid spot for Pittsburgh to be in. Now this week, 7 on the road against Miami. That's still a number that I kind of want to stay away from because now you're dealing with a Pittsburgh team away from home. You're still not sure what Miami's quarterback is. Like everything changes from a week to week level. So yeah, some weeks it's going to work out. Other times it just ends up with a whole lot of egg on your face. It's kind of the fun of it.
No, it's not fun. I don't want egg on my face. I'm an idiot. I should just listen to you. Why did I think, oh yeah, Tom Brady, he's going to come out hot right now? Nope. Fuck me, right? I'm going with anything you have to say, Ben. I am so wrong. I'm horrible at betting.
It wasn't good. That's what makes it fun. You're right. Like we're all gonna have weeks like that. You know, like I love the Saints last week, and sure enough, they can't stop Burrow at all. Saints are supposed to be a team that generated a bunch of pressure on the quarterback. Bengals are one of the worst teams in slowing down pressure. Burrow ends up being dominant down the stretch, finds Chase. Like we all end up having like collective egg on our face, Sterling. So I really wouldn't worry about it too much, but we try to avoid it as much as possible.
I watched a lot of that game, and I got to tell you, I know we have a lot of. Listen, we try to keep it as national on the show as possible. I know there's a lot of Chief fans who listen. There's a lot in the chat right now. I got to tell you guys, I don't know if you guys watched that Jamar Chase touchdown that won that game. The Chiefs might not have been wrong for moving off Tyrann Mathieu. I mean,
no part of it.
Dude, there have been a lot of plays like that this year where I've watched the Saints, and he is just like, I'm good. I'm not even going to try to tackle you. Like, not like you broke my tackle. Like, I could basically escort you down the sideline right now, and I'd be doing the same amount of defensive work. Like, it is. I always thought Marcus Peters, as great as he is as a corner, like might be the worst tackler I ever saw. Like in certain situations, I just in terms like for the Chiefs, like you just didn't want to tackle, didn't want to get involved. Tyrann Mathieu has now like passed that with the Saints. It is. Like, I can't remember the last time I've seen a guy where he literally is just like, I don't care, go down the field, touchdown, that's fine. Like it's insane. It's bad. And he did that a couple times against Seattle. Yeah. Only for people who are listening, put up the old money sign. Yeah, pretty much.
Business decisions.
The funny thing was, it wasn't even like all you had to do was like shove him. He was on the sideline. Like you just let him go by. You're like, oh my God. All right. Look, Heisler, let's get into it. Week 7 NFL lines. By the way, whoever decided the primetime slate for this should be shot. You've got Saints Cardinals on Thursday night, Dolphins Steelers on Sunday night, Bears Patriots Monday night. Who in God's name came up with this slate, and why haven't they be put in prison yet? Oh my God. But anyway, week 7 slate. Let's get into it. What are you looking at?
So just a quick note on that. The entire slate is not particularly
It's not good. No,
this is like if you're looking for a week to try to avoid some NFL, get a bunch of stuff done around the house, do some yard work, like you can probably be okay with week 7. It's also hard to come off of what we saw from week 6, where you had just fantastic matchups spread out throughout the course of the slate. But if we're going to try to start with putting together what we feel are the actual biggest, most important games of the week, I think the first one's obvious. The second one, I think, is debatable. And then I really have no idea about the third one. So I'll run it by you guys and we'll go over some of our best bets for the course of the day. So Chiefs and 49ers, that's the late afternoon window game on Fox. Makes plenty of sense, right? Chiefs going in 3-point favorites, opened up at 2.5 against San Francisco. Yep. They got their bell rung against the Falcons team that was projected to win 4.5 games this year. I'm not, I don't know whether or not, what I do know is this. I do know that Atlanta is 6-0 against the spread. They've been in pretty much every single game throughout the course of this year. They've hung tough. I also know that the 49ers can be their own worst enemy a lot of the times. I think where the Chiefs are at -3 feels maybe a little bit low, but again, you're going on the road. 49ers have had success in the early portion of these matchups, right? Like we obviously know about the Super Bowl and their ability to come back, but they're very different teams. Garoppolo looks nowhere near the level that he played at from a couple seasons ago. And now you're dealing with an even more pissed off Mahomes and Chiefs team that really fought against arguably the best team in the NFL. In fact, I don't even think there's an argument right now. I think Buffalo is by far and away the established best team in the NFL with Philadelphia right behind them, and that's what the odds say. But I think this line is correct for Kansas City. I bet them at -2.5 before it went up to 3, and the total sits in at 48.5. But I'm not sure if there's any debate as far as which is the most compelling game of the week. I think it has to be Chiefs and 49ers.
Yeah, it probably is because the Bills and Eagles are both on a bye. So basically you have one really good team playing this week and then just a bunch of teams that you're like, maybe. I don't know. It's a weird game because on one hand, I think the Niners play a style that gives the Chiefs a problem. They can just run the ball out of heavy. They can just put a fullback in there and Kittle's basically a 6th offensive lineman and they're going to run the ball. Now, the reason I say I'm conflicted is because the Chiefs are getting Willie Gay back. They're getting, you would think, Trent McDuffie back. Fenton and Cook might be back. Like, this might be literally the first time all year for a full game they actually have, like, their full complement of players defensively. So, I think the Chiefs can cover the Niners, especially with Garoppolo at quarterback. Like, I think the Chiefs will be okay in that regard. I don't think it's going to be a game where they're throwing all over them. I also think it's the kind of game the Niners have to play it a very certain way. Because if the Chiefs get up on them and they can't run the ball, then it's over. Like then it's just the game ceases to exist. The reason I'd probably take the Chiefs side on this, and I actually think it's going to be a very tight game. The Niners are just so banged up. They're missing a million guys. Shanahan yesterday said Kinlaw, he's on injured reserve. So he's not playing. Armstead's not playing. Mosley's out for the year with a torn ACL. Jimmy Ward's not playing with a broken hand. You don't know if Charvarius Ward's playing. Nick Bosa might not be playing. Both tackles might not be playing. Elijah Mitchell, their starting running back, he's not playing. I mean, if you're the Chiefs, sometimes it's not about who you're playing, but when you play them. They are catching the Niners at a time where the Chiefs they should win the game. But I do think the Niners are well coached enough, and they play enough of a scheme that. And by the way, Hufunga's and other guys in concussion protocol now. He may not play. I just think it's a good time for the Chiefs to catch them. So I would take the Chiefs, but I think it's a very interesting game.
Yeah. I do want to point out Jimmy G and George Kittle, they're finally starting to connect again. I mean, he was used as a 6 tight end last week. He had 10 targets, I think 8 catches for 80-some yards. So he's finally getting more involved. I think the Chiefs win. I think they cover, but I do think it's closer than most would probably like, especially with all the injuries that the Niners have. I like the under, though, more than anything. I like the under. I think the Niners will run the clock as much as possible. We'll see some long drives. I just think that's what we're going to see, maybe a 24-17 type of game. So I like the under almost as much as anything here.
I
So
agree.
what? Oh, go ahead, Verderame.
No, I agree. I like the under too. I think it's Niners short in the game. The biggest problem I think the Niners are going to have in this game, this is really more than anything why I would pick Kansas City. Those the injuries in the secondary to me are just, like, if Mahomes has to throw the ball in this game, he's probably going to be able to do it. Like I know they have great linebackers in Greenlaw and Warner, so maybe they can even slow down Kelsey to some extent. But the way they play Kelsey, it's hard for a linebacker to do that because they'll put him anywhere on the field.
Yeah,
like they'll put him out wide, they'll put him they'll put him anywhere. I just think it's a hard game for the Niners defensively because of how beat up they are. I got to tell you, if the Niners were fully healthy, I might pick them to win, but they're not, and I think that's probably the tail of the tape in this game.
A lot of folks, I think, when they looked at the schedule, and I was one of them, thought this could be an opportunity for a letdown game coming off the Buffalo game. Obviously, that's no longer the case. Couple notes that I think are worthwhile in bringing up for this game that I think you can use as an edge to bet this game live before we move on to the next game. This is from Alex Simon, who covers the 49ers for the Mercury News. So since Kyle Shanahan took over as head coach in 2017, the 49ers have been trailing by 7+ points entering the fourth quarter 24 times. They have not won a game in any of those instances. The largest comeback that they've had in the fourth quarter is 4 points. Now, part of the reason for that is that the 49ers are 1-11 in games where they have 20 or fewer rushing attempts. So kind of goes right back to what you guys were saying. If the 49ers can control time of possession, run the football effectively, they're going to be in this game and have a very good shot to win. If the Chiefs, and they've been a very good first half scoring team all season, if they get off to a big lead against San Francisco, that does not present a good opportunity for Jimmy Garoppolo, Kyle Shanahan. They just don't do well in situations where they're throwing a lot to have to come back in this game. So I would watch this closely. If it's a big dominant running game for San Francisco, they're in a good spot as an underdog. But if the Chiefs get off to a big lead, you might want to hammer the second half total for Kansas City as well, knowing that this just isn't going to end well for 49ers when it comes to this matchup. So that's obviously top one on the slate. We joked about the Colts and the Jaguars last week as being a top three noteworthy matchup. But now that the Colts have won, now that they're 3-2-1 and Tennessee is 3-2, Colts are going to Nashville as a 3-point dog, the total of 42.5. You know, it's not a good division. It's a very bad division.
No, it is not.
It's atrocious. But I mentioned to you guys last week that from week 6 and beyond, that's when the Colts start to figure it out. That's when Frank Reich teams end up winning at about a 66% clip if you include last week. Titans have their issues, but the Colts have been rather fortunate in their wins, and they've kind of just looked bad in all of their losses. So I'm not saying that they're not a resilient team, but I just don't think this presents a good opportunity, especially if they're still not going to have Shaquille Leonard or Jonathan Taylor, whose opportunities remain questionable for this week.
First of all, can they please move all AFC South games going forward? Can they move them to like Tuesday at 10 o'clock in the morning? It's abominable football.
I'll take it.
I'd still watch. Yeah. Come on now.
You guys are sick. I'm taking the Titans to win this game and to cover it. And I don't even think it's particularly that close. The Titans are coming off a bye. They should be healthier. I don't even think the Titans are good, and I'm taking the Titans to win and cover this game. Like, the Titans at least have an identity. What the hell do the Colts do? The Colts can't run for a yard. Can't block anybody. Ryan is cooked. And I know, like, you know, the funny thing is he's actually throwing for the second most yards in the league this year, but he's also throwing the ball like 80 times a game because his
arms gonna fall out.
They're bad, man. Like, defensively, they have games where they're all right, and they have games where they're not. I think the Titans win this game by like 9-10 points, and not because the Titans are good.
Give me the Colts.
Oh,
I'm rolling with them still. Preseason, I'm rolling with the Colts. I gotta stay on this bandwagon. Not even a bandwagon. They're not good. They're bad. But I think the Titans are bad. Both teams, honestly, have negative point differential. Two best teams, top two teams in the AFC South.
So bad.
Both have negative point differential. I said I think that the tie that the Colts have, is going to be the difference maker in which team makes the playoffs. And I think the Colts win this game. I don't like the Titans at all. I don't know what they do. Yeah, they have an identity, but it's not a good identity. I'm going to go with the Colts just based on my preseason gut. I think eventually we'll see Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman Jr., Matt Ryan. There's some talent in the receiving core there that's enough to get it done against the Titans.
This is probably one of those games I initially thought I'd take Tennessee at -2.5, and then the number moved to 3, and I missed out on it. But one other aspect that I think you can consider while you're watching this game and just torturing your eyeballs in the process, Tennessee has the worst fourth quarter offense in the NFL. The Colts gave up their first points of the season last week in the fourth quarter with that touchdown against Jacksonville. It's the first time all year anybody put up any points on the Colts. Now, again, small sample size, and you have to remember a lot of the situations that the Colts have been in, but they've played some quality offensive teams and they've shut them out up until last week. So if you're looking at the Titans and they're up as short favorites or it's a close game, you might want to consider jumping on the Colts live because of how inept Tennessee's offense is in the fourth quarter, and also Indianapolis's ability to stop teams in the fourth quarter, at least so far through the first 6 games.
Ben, please tell me you're rolling with me and not Verderame. Come on, baby. Who you got?
Right now that the line is 3, I would probably lean on the Colts.
Oh,
I think it's a better number. I do. But if it went back when it was 2.5, this feels like a Titans win on a field goal, honestly. So if that's the case, and
of course that's what the case will be.
Yeah,
of course these two clown cars will push. Because why wouldn't they?
Colts push.
Yeah. In overtime, no less. Will be how this game ends up going down. We'll have to sit through 68 minutes of garbage to get to sort our way through it.
What about last night's game?
What's that?
What about last night's game? 68 minutes of garbage decided by a field goal. Yeah, by the way, I tweeted out in the middle of the third quarter last night. I'm like, there's no way this game doesn't end in a complete shit show with these two teams. And how does it end? In overtime with 2 minutes left, with a Broncos player. Like, everybody's ripping on this returner for fumbling the ball. It's not the returner's fault. It's the guy in front of him who just backs into him like a dope. And the Chargers player, who was the only guy who did anything all night, was smart enough to just shove him into him because he just kept backing up. Like, that game, my God. I tell you what, I don't know when the next Broncos-Chargers game is. I got to look at the schedule. We got to have a watch party. The amount of comedy.
You want to get people together to watch that?
The amount of comedy is unbelievable.
Oh, that's fair.
It belongs in Dangerfield. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, Dustin Hopkins, though, Stones. Give Hopkins some credit.
I did tweet out last night, like, how is, like, what Broncos player is going to fall down and ruin my +4.5 bet? Didn't end up getting ruined, but a Broncos player fell down. By the way, Ian McMillan had lost both of his money line bets on Thursday night and Monday night. I don't know if you guys saw this tweet.
No.
By a player dropping a punt and the other team scoring. 2 muff punts cost him 2 wins. Betting is fun.
That's a shame. By the way, it's the game is the Broncos Chargers week 18. So everything could be on the line for the Chargers at Mile High. Oh my God, man.
Swing through. Come to KC.
I am living for the Chargers needing to win that game to make the playoffs. And you just get Russ. Just let's ride, and it's like 13-12 all through the football. Oh my God, please! Oh, that'd be. I will tell you guys right now. If the Chiefs have already clinched and like there's no importance for them if they're in that game against the Raiders, I won't even turn that game on. I will just watch I will watch the Chargers and Broncos because there is no end to the possibilities of what's going to happen in that game. No end. It's going to be in Denver. They're going to be 5-11 getting booed off the field. But like the Chargers are so inept, they can't take advantage of it. Oh my God. It's Christmas extended. It's beautiful.
It's like the Dayton Moore line from a handful of years ago. It's like, in some ways, it almost feels like we won the World Series. Broncos are going to win on like a 60-yard field goal. And Nathaniel Hackett's going to say something along the lines of, it kind of feels like in our own way, we won the Super Bowl.
And also, if that's the way that happens, it will hit all 3 posts. like 100%, right? It'll hit like right upright, left upright, drop straight down, and then like teeter, and then just roll over. It is And it'll happen like after they try a 65-yarder that falls short, but the Chargers like had 18 guys on the field. Like there's no end to the possibilities of how that game goes.
It'll be because the one time Brandon Staley doesn't go for it on 4th and 1, decides to punt it, and then Denver goes down the field. Like everything that Brandon Staley says from being an aggressive natured head coach and going with the analytics, except when he does the opposite, will come back to bite him. All right, I've gone too long about this one. I can't figure out which is a more intriguing game because none of them are good. But the other one that I considered is probably the Ravens hosting the Browns. Ravens getting laid 6.5, total 46.5. If you're Lamar, like I know he doesn't have much to prove. He's a great quarterback, but the consistent inability to close out games in the fourth quarter is a major concern. And Baltimore's defense has a lot of flaws and a lot of issues right now. I know Cleveland's looked rough the last couple of games. But if you can't stop the run against them, they're going to do it to the Ravens again. Ravens might have the lead, probably bet the Ravens again in the first half, but Lamar's got to take a divisional game at home, close them out, and beat him on his own. Otherwise, there's some serious concerns in Baltimore right now.
So I'll actually take issue. I think he's got a lot to prove right now because I don't know. Like before you came on, we talked about this. Like he's like 19th in passing. He's has the third most picks. I mean, he cost them the Giants game. I'm sorry. I'm not like, look, you can't throw that pick there. You just can't. You're late across the middle. Like I understand it's a bad snap, but I don't care, man. Throw it into the stands. Like you're playing Daniel Jones. Throw it 8 rows deep. I think they got a lot to prove because they can't stop blowing double-digit leads. And when you do that, that's a whole team thing. That's not just your defense. That's
right. And that's why I'm not necessarily putting it squarely on him. Like there's issues around with Baltimore.
No doubt. But he gets put sometimes in some of these categories with like he's in the same category as like Mahomes and Allen. And like, no, he's not. I'm sorry, he's not. He's good, but he's not the upper tier guys like those guys are. I would take Cleveland to cover the number. And I don't even think Cleveland's good. But I don't trust Baltimore to hold on to a big lead. So I think Baltimore wins, but I think Cleveland covers.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's going to be a closer game. Amari Cooper's had a very nice season on the outside for Cleveland. Yep. Jacoby Brissett's been better than I expected. Not saying he's great by any means, but I think Brissett's been better than I expected. I think Cleveland, they're weird saying this, a fairly well-coached team. It's weird saying that about Cleveland, but I think they are a fairly well-coached team. They have some talent. I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Ravens do win, but 6.5, I think, is too much.
Ravens blew a 21-point lead to start the fourth quarter against the Dolphins in week 2. Week 4 against the Bills, they blew a 17-point lead in the first half. Week 6 against the Giants, blew a 10-point lead with 12:54 left in the fourth quarter. Ravens first half is the play for me. Like that's a team that has done great in getting points on the board initially, take some chances downfield. Teams never seem to be fully prepared for Lamar. And then you go ahead and just back the Browns right around the middle of the third quarter, especially if it's relatively close, because that's Nick Chubb season, and the Ravens are going to have all sorts of issues slowing him down. Also, keep in mind, the Ravens have won games in odd weeks as opposed to the even weeks. It's week 7. But don't actually go ahead and bet on that. All right, you guys ready for the bets that I've already made this week? And we'll do a little yay or nay.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's get it done.
First one, hold your nose because the Jacksonville Jaguars as 2.5-point favorites are going to take down the 5-1 New York Giants. I bet this number up to 3. That's where most of the sports books have them already. The Giants, when you take away their ability to run, are a below average team. And that's what Jacksonville does really, really well. I know the Colts had a couple decent runs. Deion Jackson had a big run towards the end of the game, but that's what Jacksonville does. They're really, really good against the run. And I think they're going to force Daniel Jones to beat him downfield. Jack should have won that game last week against the Colts. I don't think they screw it up again. And there's a reason why I think the sharp money has been all over Jacksonville in the early portion of the week. If you can get him at 2.5, run to that number. Otherwise, -3 feels like the right play as well.
Yeah, I like the Giants this year, but I agree. I think it's a weird matchup. I also think it's a desperate Jacksonville team. Like you got to win this game, or you're pretty much in the toilet. So, or as also is known, half game back in the AFC South. I think the Giants are the better team, but I think the matchup, the way that sits, favors Jacksonville. I will say one thing that would give me a little pause. With Martindale as the D coordinator with New York, they are going to blitz the hell out of Lawrence in this game. It's coming. And if Jacksonville does not have an answer for it, that's going to be ugly. But I'll roll with you. I'll roll with Jacksonville laying the points in the game.
So I like the Giants, but that means I should go with you and Jacksonville, since I should always go against what I think is going to happen. So I'll roll with you, Ben. I learned my lesson after last week.
Listen, if there's not some sort of disagreement at some point, I'll be a little concerned. But let's move on to the next one. Falcons getting 6.5 on the road against Cincinnati. Falcons, the only remaining team in the NFL that's undefeated against the spread. We talked briefly about their ability to remain in close games. And part of it has been Arthur Smith adjusting his offense to the talent or lack of talent that he has on their team. But the scheme is working, especially in the running game. And Mariota bounced back. He had a terrible last couple of games, was very efficient, didn't need to throw the ball many times. Even without Cordero Patterson, they looked terrific against San Francisco, which is a very good team in stopping the run. Didn't show it last week. Cincinnati still has plenty of issues. I know that they had a big win on the road against New Orleans, coming back at home. Still a Falcons team that bookmakers really haven't adjusted to yet. But I like this number still for Atlanta. They're still getting too many points from the books. They've showed all year that they can cover even against better teams than Cincinnati. I don't think going on the road phases them one bit. Sometimes I even prefer them on the road. I like them 6.5 at Cincinnati this week.
I like to disagree, but I can't here. The Falcons, I'm with you. Look, they've played well. And one thing about Atlanta, they're really well coached. They will give it to you. Now, I don't know if Terrell is going to be able to play this week. I saw he hurt his hamstring last week. They need A.J. Terrell in this game.
Yes, they do.
They need him to be healthy because they do not have a good pass rush. But I think they're going to score some points in the game. I think they're going to score enough to keep, even if they backdoor cover or something, I think they will cover. And I don't even think it's going to be a backdoor cover. I think it's going to be a fairly close game. So I'm with you there. I think the Falcons probably cover that number.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, the Falcons, like you mentioned, 6-0. They've been consistently giving way too many points. They play close. They play hard. I like the Falcons. They don't win this game. I don't think the Falcons win. But if it's a 2-point game, 3-point game, I would not be shocked at all.
Yep.
Key for Falcons, by the way, getting off to an early lead, being able to run the ball. Cincinnati, third best defense in the NFL in the fourth quarter behind Indianapolis and Buffalo. Last one, because I already mentioned that I like the Chiefs at -2 or -2.5 against the 49ers this week. Seattle Seahawks getting 7 against the LA Chargers. 7 points. It's moved down at some books to 6.5. If you search around, shop around, you can still get them at +7. On what planet right now do the LA Chargers deserve to be a 7-point favorite? Now, I might be walking into it like I kind of the opposite mindset.
No, you're not. You're not.
But here's the thing: if most people would look at the Jaguars and Giants line, they would look at that as a trap line, right? Oh, the Giants are 5-1.
Right,
Jaguars can't win a game. I'm going to take the Giants. It feels like it's a trap to the public. To me, it almost feels like a trap for the Seattle team, but they score points, especially on the road. Their defense hasn't been as good away from home. Gave up 9 points last week. But Chargers games aren't a road game. You know what I mean? You can't factor that in as an actual true road environment. So I don't think they're going to be fazed by it. And you're talking about a team with really good speed on the outside with Lockett and Metcalf. Kenneth Walker's a solid-looking running back. I was impressed by him. Guy that I really enjoyed playing at Michigan State. They can control the game in a wide variety of ways. And unless I know for sure that Keenan Allen's 100% healthy, I have pause about taking the Chargers at this high of a number, even at home.
I'll go a step further. I'm going to take the Seattle money line.
Like it.
I think this is
how much Verderame, throw it. I want to see it.
Oh God, not in real life. I don't know if I'm allowed to, but I think they're going to beat them outright. What have the Chargers done at all this year to make you think? Look, the Chargers started out okay. They beat the Raiders at home. Fine, that's fine. It's week 1. Whatever. It's a divisional game. Then they played the Chiefs tough. They actually outplayed them early. Then the Chiefs came back and they made enough plays to find the way to win. Since week 2, the Chargers have been a tire fire. I mean, honestly, blown out by Jacksonville, which everybody was like, oh, maybe Jacksonville's good. No, Jacksonville's not good. They haven't won a game since. Okay, then you get into what? You barely beat Houston. You need to hang on for dear life in that game. You needed a miracle of 151 penalty yards at home to beat Denver. Like, I'm with you, but like, why in the world did they lay in a touchdown? In what dimension should they ever be laying? They shouldn't lay 7 points against anybody. I don't go home, away, whatever. By the way, you're right. There's going to be 50,000 Seattle fans at this game. I'll tell you right now, J.C. Jackson's not playing well. Are they covering Lockett? Are they covering DK Metcalf? I don't know. And I'll tell you right now, I'll give you a guy watching this game. Tariq Wooten, he's playing really well at corner for Seattle. He's a rookie. He's really good. So Seattle's also got a better defensive line than people realize. Like, I know they haven't been great defensively this year. They only gave up 3 points last week on defense because the score of the touchdown for Arizona was a defensive score. I think Seattle's going to beat them. Like, I think Seattle right now legitimately is a better football team than the Chargers.
I don't have the stones to bet Seattle outright, but I definitely don't think 7 or 6.5, whatever it is. Why? Geno Smith at this point might be better than Russell Wilson. Hell,
there's
Drew
no might.
Lock.
There's no might. He's
Lock
just better than him.
Might be better than Russell Wilson. I mean, this is just absurd. Seattle, I don't think they're going to win outright. But you mentioned it. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, they'll put some points up. And it's not like the Chargers push the ball downfield. They dump off. Even without Keenan Allen, you think, okay, big Mike Williams game. Don't even look his way. Wouldn't want to get him involved as he almost brings in one of the most absurd catches I have ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, it was borderline. And I'm just sitting here going, don't want to get him involved. Would hate for him to make a great catch. I just can't trust the Chargers. It's going to be a close game.
But real quick, so I think most people would go into this game and say, here's the big advantage, Herbert and Geno Smith. And like, Herbert's a better quarterback than Geno Smith. Sure. I'm not trying to make that case. Herbert's throwing for the 4th most yardage this year. Geno Smith is tied with Kirk Cousins for 9th. But here's what's interesting. Justin Herbert is averaging 6.7 yards an attempt, which is pretty bad. Now, I don't blame that on Herbert. I blame that on their offensive scheme. That ball you mentioned to Mike Williams, I guarantee if they had given us the old Ken Dorsey camera up on Joe Lombardi would have been like, oh, God, not over 10 yards. I mean, the fear they have of throwing the ball is incredible. So Herbert's at 6.7 yards an attempt. You know who's at 8? Geno Smith. Herbert's completing 66% of his passes, which is fine. Geno's at 73.4. He's the best in football. 9 touchdowns to 2 picks. He's got a better QBR by 9 points than Herbert does. Like, I don't think Herbert's a lesser quarterback, but I can't believe I'm saying this about the Seahawks. The Seahawks give their quarterback more freedom in the offense than the Chargers do. Like, somehow that's actually true. I think Seattle, honest to God, if they can block, I think they win this game. I really do.
So they're plus 230 on the money line. So a $100 bet would win you $230. Chargers enter the week bottom 10 in run DVOA. They're 22nd. You mentioned the numbers on Geno completing 73.4% of his passes. He's got the only person that he trails in passer rating that's for quarterbacks that have started every game this season is Josh Allen. He's got a 2-point higher QBR than Pat Mahomes at this point. Like, again, I don't know how sustainable it is for Geno, but he has weapons around him. He's in a scheme that makes sense and works well for him. And they're putting up points. And you know what? His deep ball throws this year have been unbelievable. A couple of the games that the ones that he connected with Tyler Lockett, not last week, but the week before, were exceptional. Like, some of the best deep balls that I've seen this year in the NFL. It's gonna be a fun game. I think it's the highest total on the board right now at I think 51 and a half. 51. Yeah, 51 and a half. That's the highest total, the only game on the slate in the 50s. I mean, let's go. And maybe that's the argument for the Chargers, that if this game turns into a shootout, kind of like how it did against the Lions, that doesn't bode well for what Seattle wants to do, and the Chargers can win that type of game. But man, like 7 points, full touchdown, with the way that the Chargers tend to collapse in games late with the decisions from Brandon Staley, you have the clear coaching advantage with Pete Carroll. This feels like a layup to me. It almost feels too good to be true.
I don't even think it's enough. I honest to God, I really maybe I'm a dope and the Chargers won by 20 points. The Chargers can't do anything. Staley was supposed to be this big defensive genius when he came over. How's that going? I mean, they've invested how much money in that defense? They can't stop anybody from running the football. And you know one thing with Seattle, if they can run the ball, they're going to keep doing it. Like that, that's coming. I mean, they're coming downhill. So, Seattle, I got to be fair. There were two teams this year I thought would be absolute garbage that have not been. Atlanta and the Seahawks. I don't think either one of those teams are like great teams or maybe even playoff teams, although in the NFC, who knows, maybe. But I thought those teams would be bad. They're not bad. All right, listen. Heisler, I know you got to get out of here and do things more important. What the hell is going on at BetSided? Talk to us.
Yeah, plenty of stuff ahead of NFL Week 7. As you guys all know, we'll have betting previews, predictions, props, anytime touchdown scores, whatever you need to get your bet on this week. We'll have it. The Daily Read live right now. So once you're done with this show, make sure you head on over to BetSided's YouTube channel. Go ahead and give us a thumbs up and a subscription as well. Reed's Talking College Football continues to have just a dominant season. He's been ahead of so many different line moves. Got TCU and Utah way before the Lions moved last week. They ended up winning those games outright. So give him a follow as well. NBA season starts tonight, boys. It's a fun time. Our Peter Dewey finished, I think, around 56%.
Peter and I are going to go light every candle in the world as Knicks fans.
Well, I mean, he's going to go through it every game. Like it's
deep pain, man.
Too many games to go through it with the Knicks, but he will be right there front and center for it. His best bets for tonight are already out over at BetSide. You should check that out. Really, anything that's going on in the world of betting, make sure you come hang out. And then also Daily Bet Slip live today, 4 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. Eastern. I will be there with our guy, Ian McMillan.
All right. Thank you so much, Ben Heisler, the great Ben Heisler. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate you.
See you, fellas.
See you later. All right. Brought me down. I got to think about the Knicks.
10, 9, 8. 76ers, baby. Come on.
Oh, God. Enjoy that. It'll be great for 60 games. And a beat will have like some kind of like a muscle pull, and that'll be it. Although our producer, Sean Daly, says that's what he's talking about. Is he also a 76ers fan? I mean, oh God, the Knicks, they're going to cost me. All right. The Knicks and the Devils just, they suck. I was all excited for the Devils, and then just immediately, like within 30 minutes, I just turned the game off.
Your enthusiasm was like, they're good this year. The Flyers are ass. It's going to be a great game. The Devils, they're good.
The Devils are supposed to be good. They're not. The Flyers are supposed to be ass. I'm pretty sure they still will be. But I mean, it's just, I've never seen a team, and I mean this genuinely. I mean this so much. I'm actually going on Fanside's Devils podcast tomorrow because they invited me on to talk about this. I have never seen a team that has no plan whatsoever in a game than the Devils, ever. Like, if you've ever played the sport, there are certain things. Like, look, when you're in your defensive zone, like you need to have certain positioning. Like it's hockey is a lot more straightforward than the NFL, where there's a million different types of way to cover. Like, you pretty much know, okay, if the puck's behind our net, you're going to have one defenseman on the puck. That other defenseman's going to shift over. He's going to stay in front of the net. If a second guy goes behind, your second defenseman's going to go behind. Your center's going to drop down. Active stick in the slot. The Devils, both defensemen behind the net, one guy not on anybody, and the center at the point. And there's just nobody in front of the net. Like, you're like, you've been playing hockey for how many years now? Is anyone alive? Like, is anyone... There was one goal that they gave up against the Flyers where one of the defensemen was in the corner and literally was guarding nobody. Was just covering the boards. I honestly, it deserves a 30 for 30. Like, what was Damon Severson thinking on this play? Like, nobody knows. It's just, not covering anyone. I mean, just you're like, oh my God, man, this is so bad. But in any event,
we need to pray for you, my guy. We gotta pray for Verderame during Knicks Devils season. My gosh,
it's so bad. If the Chiefs aren't good, I'm just dead inside. All right, so we've got a couple things to get to here that are important. Then I'll stay away from this shit because the Knicks, I think, are a playing team. They'll just get blasted. It won't matter. The Guardians and the Yankees game 5 tonight. I can't express how much I want the Guardians to win that game. Not only to knock out the Yanks, but to do it in their own building in front of all those meatheads, all 55,000 of them or whatever they pack into that hole these days. They can't lose enough. The worst fan base in the world. Just the biggest bunch of front runners and hangers-on in the world. If you ever go back and look at years where they haven't made the playoffs, which obviously has been rare recently, there's crickets at those games. All of them, all of a sudden, all those pinstripe jerseys with the names on the back, those fake jerseys, they all go in the closet. All the gold chains go in the closet. And I can say this because I'm a New Yorker and I'm Italian, so eat it. All these people, Cheetah. Every single one of them, all their shit goes in the closet. And then they're just waiting for the next New York team that's halfway decent. And then they
bust up the Lakers jerseys. What are you talking about? They bust up the Cowboys and Lakers jerseys.
Right now, they're all
Cowboys, Lakers. Come on, it's the same fan.
Right now, those boys are in deep pain across the board. Okay, because the Lakers have another rust that's cooked, and the Cowboys might be the third best team in the division.
Well, and they're Alabama fans too for football. Only football, of course.
Of course, right. I mean, but I'm telling man, they can't lose enough. So I hope that they lose. And then, look, the one thing that this season brings me is you may or may not be familiar with this show, The Challenge on MTV. It's my guilty pleasure in life, and it is a terrible show, but at the same point, it's awesome. And I'm all in. It's season like 38. I'm complete. Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. Oh yeah. It's gotten worse and better simultaneously. It's better because there's more backstabbing going on because people have gotten smarter and they call it their political game, which is a joke. They're not smart enough to have political games, but they backstab more. So that's better. The producers have gotten better at making sure that there's just a whole lot of crap going on, but it's gotten worse in the sense that now we live in an age where you can't just sucker punch somebody into a pool and it's okay. When I was in high school, if they, hey, Johnny's talking crap, and then somebody go outside I actually, in all seriousness, you couldn't punch somebody, but you could pretty much do anything else, and it was fine.
You did the guy where the guy gets behind someone, and then you bring the guy over and you push him, then he falls because he trips over the guy who's sitting down.
You could pretty much do just about anything 10 years ago on this show, and unless you actually punch him, that was the only hard line that there was. Unless you just cold cock somebody, you were good. There were years where people would take stuff. There's always a pool because of course there's a pool, and you'd always take stuff, and people would throw everybody all this shit in the pool, ruin all this stuff. Your stuff's ruined, and it was totally fine. Now if that happens, you got to sit down and have a talk about bullying for 30 minutes, and then after the show, they're if you've been bullied, please call 1-800-BULLYING. Which is probably better for society, but makes for less interesting television. But in any event, it's for $1 million, and it's a bunch of degenerates, and they're all usually in their mid to late 20s, but you'll also always get somebody who's I'm 41. This is my 19th season on the challenge. I know I can win it. And those people are great because when they get eliminated, they're distraught. So I'm here for it. I'm a big fan.
This sounds like a show I need to go on.
I'm
mid to late 20s. I would thrive. I'll just walk around calling everyone, hey, Copernicus, your shit's in the pool. Just, I think I'd do good.
Man, when I was a kid, I always wanted to go in the real world. I was I'd be great on that show. I'd be more than happy to go on that show. And then I got to interview Kyle Brandt, Good Morning Football, formerly of the Real World, a while back, and we were talking about MTV and all these shows, and he was awesome. He was on this podcast, but I always wanted to go on that show. When I was in college, I was man, and I was too lazy to apply, so I never, but I was man, that'd be so much fun Like, I'd love to go on that show and just whatever, 7 strangers. Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. I'm more than happy to grab some booze. And
So I said free beer. I go free booze. Come on.
that's the other part of this. So the challenge, there used to be, and this is the difference. Used to be, now they go out to bars. And, of course, especially now in like the COVID era, like they basically just shut the bar down. They bring these people in. Like, it's really tame. Used to be the biggest open bar you've ever seen in your life, like in the kitchen. That was a good time. Because it invariably, it would be like, you know how these shows go. So it'd be like everybody's having a good time. Like, oh, I love Lisa. Oh, I love Johnny. And then at like 2:00 in the morning, and there's Bobby. And Bobby is now blackout drunk on the couch, but he's still functioning. And he's pissed because he liked Lisa. And now she's hooking up with Johnny. And that's when it would get good. Like, that's when you go, hey, man, stay away from my girl. And be like, what? What are you talking about, bro? And, of course, then, like, it's got to be like they're all on, like, massive amounts of creatine. So now it's like this like, alpha male. It's like the bighorn sheep in the wilderness who are just going to butt heads. But, like, if their BAC levels were 0.37, and it's total manic chaos. And then they show, like, the one person who's, like, actually calm in the house, like, making, like, a pizza in the stove. And they're just watching this whole thing unfold. And it invariably ends with somebody taking like somebody else's bed frame and just wailing it out a window, sleep outside with the garbage. And like that's when this show was awesome. And now, God forbid, like, oh no, I can't have that because people are gonna get upset. Like, they should get upset. They're on the challenge. That's the point. Let them drink vodka straight out of the bottle for 9 hours. I don't care. Like, it's not my problem. If you go on that show, you know damn well you're signing up for that. Also, apparently, according to Lucas S. here, as we dive away from the challenge, apparently Russell Wilson has a significant or a potentially significant hamstring issue. That feels, I'm not gonna say what I'm thinking.
Feels like they should have kept Drew Lock. And speaking of Drew Lock, I'm heading to Mizzou's Homecoming this weekend. So you're talking about those 0.37 BAC. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
I'm being facetious. You're
gonna switch the numbers around. Where are you stay? You staying in a hotel like an adult? Or you crashing with some kid in a dorm room?
We're doing a day trip.
Somebody you have that's younger than you.
We're doing a day trip now. Okay. We're now the spot. I'm not driving.
You're an adult now.
Doesn't matter. I'm not driving. Come on. That's part of the deal. I'm not driving.
I'd hope not.
So we'll see how it ends up going. If I end up at 10 below, if you're a Mizzou person, I'm so old now. I need one of those life alerts. The thing where it goes, help, I've fallen and I can't get up. So if you see me at 10 below, give me one of those bad boys because I'll be the oldest guy in there by like 10 years.
That's tough. That's tough. It's always funny when you're not that person, but you see that person, you're like, yeah, that's tough. I had a buddy who will remain nameless because sometimes he even listens to this. I know he will occasionally partake in this podcast. He's a Broncos fan though, so he might be in deep pain right now. And we can close it on this since we're like an hour and 20 right now. So his 21st birthday, we went to college together. He's a year and a half younger than me. But we worked together in college, and we became to this day great friends. And we went out to this place called Old City Hall in Oswego, which was great. If you could buy a mug for $5, and they would fill that mug for 50 cents. And oh yeah, so if you had $10, you had a good night. Okay.
Penny pitchers is the all-time best thing to ever happen. For a pitcher, 1 penny.
That's not bad. You can't beat that deal. We couldn't find that deal, but you kept the mug. So like once you had the mug, you had 10. If you had $10 in your pocket, you could go get 20 Bud Lights. I mean, I'm not saying that happened or didn't happen, but things happen.
Tip your bartenders, Verderame.
Listen, I knew most of the bartenders. I'd tip them later. I'd get back to them. Now, actually, the bartenders, we actually had to tip them well because God, they put up a lot of crap. But in any event, so that night, Emery turns to me, he's like, let's go out. I'm like, okay. So I bought him his mug, and we had a group of friends. It wasn't just he and I, it was a group of us. And we're getting ready to leave because it's about to close down. Like, where's so-and-so? Like, oh, I think he's outside. He's outside. Now, granted, there was like a wraparound porch. It was cold as hell, man. It was pretty. I'm like, okay. And we go outside, and there's another group of people who we don't know who are like laughing, but also mildly concerned. And they're like, oh, he's throwing up all over the place. Oh, God. And we go over there, and it's my buddy. And like, he looks at me, and he's obviously in some discomfort. And he's like, I had a lot of White Russians tonight. I'm like, ooh. Like, man, it's just stuck with the Bud Light, man.
Okay, Lebowski.
I'm like, come on, man. Like, I don't know what I did. I don't know what happened. I tried to be an adult. Like, oh, God. Well, all right, it's time to get into a cab. Oh, God. Yeah, so don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Who ended up fine. He's doing well. But, yeah, that was it. That was a funny night. He's one of the least embarrassing stories. I have friends of mine who turned 21. I'm right there with him. My 21st birthday was a sideshow. All right. We've been here for an hour and 22 minutes. If you are still here with us, God bless you. Subscribe to the channel. Please, give us a rating. Give us a review. Give us a 5-star review and a rating on iTunes if you can. Always helps. Really appreciate it, as always. It's nice to see the chat. It feels like every week more and more people are in there talking, filling it up. Really appreciate all you guys. For Sterling Holmes, I am Matt Verderame. Thank you for listening and enjoy week 7 of the NFL season. I cannot believe we're already at week 7.